For staying. If there's anybody hiding in the balcony, make yourself known to Linwood, who is doing the head count for us. Thank you. Welcome to the meeting. As I said, I'm going to invite Reverend Darren to open our meeting with an opening prayer.
Thank you, Kathy. Shall we join our hearts? Gracious God, we thank you for the blessings we've known in the past year, for the work we've accomplished together, for all the ways we've served our community and those who are in need. We ask that you would bless our meeting and our decisions and as we go forward into this new year. We ask all of this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you. And thanks also to Stephen Dickey, who is doing the minutes, to Helena, who is running our slides, and thanks, Will, for staying to continue the live streaming of the meeting. So if any folks are joining the meeting from afar and would like to make a comment, Helena handed off the phone. Yes, Reverend Darren has the phone, and you can call in if you have any comments. We generally start this meeting with a motion to appoint, a call for nominations for a chair for this meeting, and then a vote on that. Would anyone like to nominate a chair? Tracy? So there's a nomination that I continue chairing the meeting. Are there any other nominations? Am I supposed to ask 3 times? That would be redundant. 3 times. Is there a seconder for that? Oh, thanks, Donnie. All in favor? Aye. Contrary-minded? Motion carried. Thank you. We will move through quickly then. We'd like to start the meeting with a motion to extend the vote to all present. Is there anyone who would be willing to make a motion? The vote. Thanks, Derek, and seconded by David Jenkins. So Derek Kronmeyer and David Jenkins, thanks for reminding me to make that clear. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded? Thank you. We have an agenda that was published, and I would like to make a few changes to the agenda. Specifically, I would like to add, immediately after reviewing the minutes of the last meeting, to add brief updates for the congregation on the affirming process, on the planned giving program, and on a survey being done by the Discernment Committee. So those are 3 short items. Are there any other changes to the agenda? So with those changes, would someone be willing to move that we approve the agenda? Jill and Derek, thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded? Motion carried. Thank you. And so looking at the minutes of our last annual meeting that were published in the annual report, I don't remember that far back. If there are any errors that I don't remember, but certainly are there any errors or omissions? And Lynn has... So Lynn, would you like to come up to the microphone and...
Sorry, I'm just a numbers person, so if a number's wrong, it sticks out. So on page 42, we go from number 6, reports of the board, and on page 43, then it goes to number 8, financial. So I'd just like to change that 8 to a 7, because on page 44, it does correctly say 8 for nominations. Hopefully that's clear.
Yeah, thanks, Lynn. So there's a typo around numbering. Any other comments? With that change, would someone be willing to move that we approve the minutes of the last meeting? Anybody? Thank you. Peter. This is a really hard job, you know. So Peter Norton, a seconder. Anyway, yeah, Stephen. Derek, you've already in there twice, okay? Thanks. But if we forget, we'll put your name in. Thank you. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded? Thank you. Motion carried. So I'm going to call now on Joyce Walkersteed for an update on the affirming process.
Good morning. So I've been asked to give a brief update on where we are in our affirming journey and also a timeline of the progress over the past 2 years. So we began the discussion process informally approximately 2 years ago with a few meetings involving our social justice and outreach committee, which at the time was made up of Mary Cowper-Smith and myself. Darren, Nathan, Kathy, Mary, and I met, and we included Reverend Pix in one of these early meetings. About a year ago, we received approval from Session and the board to begin explorations as to what would be involved for Spring Park to become an affirming congregation. Last July, Mary and I attended the annual national conference of Affirm United, which was held at Trinity in Charlottetown. Following that conference, Mary and I discussed with Darren the desire to run some informational announcements over the course of the fall, the goal being to provide the congregation with discussion points primarily derived from Affirm United's Open Hearts document. This is the guiding resource for congregations hoping to embark on becoming affirming. And these ran from September to November. Our Social Justice Committee now included a new member, Diane Porter, and her valuable participation was added to the mix. In early November, we also set up a Bristol board display at coffee hour and handouts available in the narthex explaining both the process to becoming affirming, along with a valuable handout entitled, "We're Welcoming, so why become affirming?" There was a ballot box with this display to allow folks to place their comments or questions anonymously regarding our Affirm journey. On November 16th, we held an informational meeting advertised in the announcements, inviting folks from the congregation to learn about next steps, including revising our church's mission statement, having some symbols in the church welcoming marginalized communities, in particular the 2S LGBTQ one, and creating a survey question to gauge congregational interest in this process. Since then, there have been 2 additional meetings, one on January 11th and one this past Sunday. At the meeting on February 1st, Mary Beth McLean, with input from Bob McRae, led a very interesting and valuable exercise helping the 15-plus folks who attended analyze the mission statements of affirming congregations across the country, with the end goal being the revision of our own mission statement. Work will continue on this in the coming weeks. We have also just confirmed that we'll have 2 guest speakers coming to talk about their personal experiences as it relates to the UCC affirming process. Reverend Pix Bucks and Reverend Heather McDougall will speak after coffee time on March 22nd, and a light lunch will be offered. We'll have more information about this in the coming weeks, along with a sign-up sheet for volunteers. Finally, we'll be creating a hard copy survey question and an online version that we are hoping most members of our church family will complete and submit anonymously. This will allow us to better understand both support for and questions people have about the Affirm process. There will be an announcement when we launch this survey question because our goal is that this process be reflective, educational, and most importantly, fully participatory. People often ask, how long does the process to become an affirming church take? Well, the answer we've been given is it takes as long as it takes, but on average, a year or 2. At the end of an educational journey to become an affirming church, there would need to be a congregational vote. Affirm United strongly recommends receiving at least 75% approval before becoming an affirming congregation. If you're looking for more information about this process, as mentioned, the Open Hearts Affirm United website is a great resource. This is what you'll find online. But please don't hesitate to reach out to myself, Mary, Diane, or the church office should you wish to become involved in our Affirm journey, or should you have any questions regarding Affirm United. We really value your input. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joyce. I don't think I'm going to open it up for questions, but as you said, you're open to questions at any time. Thanks for that. I'm going to ask now, Jill Ellis is going to give us some information about the new planned giving program.
Hi there. Thank you, Kathy, for providing me with the opportunity to let the congregation know about the work of the newly formed Planned Giving Committee. This is a subcommittee under stewardship. It is chaired by John Scales, and Mary Beth McLean and I are the committee members. We came together in early December and have worked diligently to develop policies and procedures that will enable us to appropriately recognize and thank those who have included Spring Park United Church in their estate planning. We are especially pleased to be able to express our church's gratitude to the family of the late Esther Stewart for the recent gift she left to Spring Park. Her son, Scott Stewart, expressed to Reverend Darren, Chair Kathy, and our committee how pleased they are to be able to help our church in meaningful ways. We plan to offer a workshop in the future to address questions you may have with respect to legacy gifts. Thank you for consideration of this meaningful way to help our church well into the future. Thank you.
Thanks, Jill. And once again, it's not that the committee doesn't want questions, but they've got some excellent materials that they're going to be sharing with us in the coming weeks and months. And next, I'm going to ask Wayne Cutcliffe to come and say a few words about the work of the Discernment Committee and their survey.
Thank you. I'm going to start just by saying who is on our committee. Tracy Cudmore, of course, as chair of M&P, is on that. Marilyn Carey is on it. Derek Kronmeyer is on it. Wayne Hamley is on it. Reverend Pix Butt is on it because the United Church wants an outside person on this, and myself as chair. Some people ask us, what's a discernment committee? And it's more than just defining a part-time position. It's really doing a bit of a data analysis. And Reverend Pix has sort of said that United Churches are encouraged to do this every few years, sort of 3 or 4 years to do this anyway. So we've been meeting with the staff and with the various chairs of committees. We're almost done with that. But essentially what we're trying to find out is, what's good, what do you value within the church, and also where do you see the needs are for the church and the priorities, this type of thing. And if you have a vision sort of thing, then share that vision sort of with us. And so where we are now is we're preparing a survey for the congregation. And you're going to be asked to do essentially the same thing. We're trying to keep it a relatively short survey that it's easy to fill out. We'd like you to do it on Google Forms, and essentially we're going to give you an opportunity to make some comments in a few places, but then there'll be other parts just to specify your priorities in terms of certain categories. Just check us what your priorities are, things like that. And the nice thing about Google Forms is, if you know something about this, it puts it into a spreadsheet. We can do an analysis very, very quickly. If you're someone who doesn't like filling out online forms, then of course there'll be paper versions away, and we'll enter those ourselves. We're not asking for names, but we're going to categorize you in terms of age groups, because that helps us sort of understand where people are coming from and what their priorities are. So that's going to be an easy thing to do as well. When all that's finished and you've done your survey and you're still unhappy, then you can come and talk to our committee. So we'll accommodate people as well. So you'll hear a little bit more. The frameway for that survey is set up. We're going to work on it again this week, so very shortly that survey is going to be there and it's going to be online. So you'll hear more about this when the survey is ready. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you, Wayne. Let's move on to the reports. So we have in the annual report a series of reports for information, and I'm assuming folks have had a chance to look at them. We would entertain any questions about any reports if anyone has them. But hearing none, would someone like to make a motion to accept the reports on block? Bob McRae, moved by, and Jill, and save you for next time, Nora. Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary-minded? It was either Nora or Jill. Just, yeah. Thanks. Okay, so that motion is carried. Thank you. And next we have the reports of the board, committee, and groups. And I'd just like to make a comment before we take the vote on this. This really has been an interesting year for our congregation, and I just want to highlight that this was the 100th anniversary of our United Church of Canada. When I was growing up, I have my commemorative 50-year spoon. My 75-year stuff, many of you do. It was really an exciting year. We haven't finished celebrating, and I just want to highlight, we have our history book in the works, and so many thanks to Nancy Dupuis, who has put in so many hours of work on that, but that project should come to completion fairly soon. Thank you. So noted. Round of applause for Nancy. The other thing is we commissioned a centennial banner that has been created by Carol Boyles and will be, okay, what's the word I'm searching for here? Dedicated, thank you. Will be dedicated in the coming weeks. Tell Carol I'm a great fan of her work, and it's really beautiful what she's created. So we have those special anniversary to look forward to. Yes, thank you. Thanks, everyone. Okay, so those reports. Can I have a motion to accept the committee reports? And I think I'm doing this in reverse order. We have to have a motion, and then we can ask for questions. Would anyone like to move that we accept the reports? Oh, thank you, Joyce. Seconder for the motion, Donnie McLean. Thank you. So any questions about any of those reports, those beautifully written reports? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded? Thank you, motion carried. And now for the moment you've all been waiting for, the financial reports. And I'm going to ask Randy, our treasurer, who's our much loved treasurer, who does such beautiful graphics for us, to come and present those reports. Thanks.
Good morning, everyone. Hello, everyone watching from home. And yeah, just a happy birthday week to Derek, Nancy, and Jill. You have a big week ahead. I personally have nothing planned. Mortgage payment on Thursday, but other than that, nothing. So thank you very much, everyone, for your trust in me in this role. I appreciate that, and also for your patience. I feel in walking into this role, it took me about a year to sort of get my bearings, get caught up, get organized, get straight with the reporting, and I think largely I'm there. The big message that I want to share and try to sort of communicate where we are as a congregation looking at things through the financial lens is our business model, and I don't mean to be crass referring to what we do as a business, but bear with me. But our business model has changed, and I sort of come at this with the perspective of having been in this role 15 years ago. I was treasurer for 5 or 6 years, and I can see things have changed a lot. I would dare say that this is the most complicated our books have probably ever been. It's very dynamic. And in fact, the reason that we don't have a financially reviewed by our accounting team document here, which has been the tradition, long-standing, to have the accountant's final report on hand for the congregational meeting, the reason we don't, they're still reviewing it, is because, in fact, the changes in just sort of behind the curtain on our finances now include quite a bit of investment work. So we're, in fact, awaiting tax documents which come out at the end of February or 1st of March. So this is a process that can't really wrap up until April. Last year it wrapped up in May. So there will be officially reviewed, independently reviewed statements coming. They'll be available at the office. It's a little bit down the road. But I have gotten the go-ahead from the accountants that said basically the work that we've done in the office sort of looks good. So what you have before you is pretty close. There might be a few adjustments, but it's pretty close to what we'll have. So I want to say that with all these changes, some of it is just the situation that we're in, just sort of with our books and just the nature of operating a church, and some of the changes are initiatives that we've brought about. But over the last 10 or 15 years, the official board has been very proactive. And yesterday I took on a little bit of work, if I can find it. And I looked back at some of the 2010, 2011 books, and I was interested. And I do have a little bit of regret that I didn't get to do a nice, shiny chart. But I found some interesting details just to sort of paint this picture of where we are, how we've grown, and how our situation is quite a bit different now. So in 2010, our gross earnings were $281,000. In 2025, there were approximately $389,000. So it looks like quite a bit of growth. However, if you backpedal 2% inflation every year over the last 15 years, that comes out to $287,000, so almost exactly what we were making and pulling in 15 years ago. But also, if you were to look at the breakdown of our income streams, in 2010, we made $223,500 through donations, special offerings, and that was 79.5% of the revenue generated by the church. Another 16% was from rent. So almost everything was through those two channels. Now, and there are some in the financial statements, there are some charts that break down the percentages. But right now, our donations represent 45% of what the church takes in. So the church has been busy, led by different iterations of the official board over the last 15 years, to keep up with the changes, and largely through donations. Donations have skidded about 1 or 2% per year, and on top of that, they lose value for another couple percent per year through inflation. So Spring Park has been busy developing other revenue streams. So right now, our fundraising represents $25,000 plus, and we have interest that we earn that comes into the office every single month as a result of dividend earnings and interest earnings, and this represents almost $30,000. And we've also recently renegotiated a rental agreement with our chief tenant. So our rent now is $144,000, and that's in line more so with sort of market comps in the rentals. So the church has been very busy to try to sort of fill the gap from the plateau of donations. So it's worth mentioning that, you know, your boards over the last 15 years have been responsive to this and have been reactive and proactive to fill in that gap. Now, that's the research I did yesterday, but I wasn't near a printer, sorry. But for 2025, our operating situation is pretty good. So just before any adjustments that come in, we are around break even. It does say around $8,900 as a surplus. Mathematically, that surplus is probably because of the savings that we incurred from Nathan's salary no longer being on our books. So basically, I see our situation as largely being break even. It's volatile because of the trend of donations skidding and inflation, because expenses keep going up. But that's the work that has already been happening and continues to happen with the work of the Stewardship Committee, the stewards, the trustees. What else do I have? So not really reported in my report. Oh. Yep. I wasn't even looking. Helena's falling on her sword on that one. Thank you. Yeah, I am speaking out of the handout that was provided. So yeah, thank you for the comment. So what you won't see, though, in the work that's been sort of brought forward so far is much communication on the balance sheet side of our books. That's something that I do rely on the expertise from the accountants to sort of guide me through the year-end adjustments, and we're still sort of waiting in that regard. You know, trustees may be able to speak to some of the goings-on with there as well. But I will say some of the work that's been going on since 2010 has been to grow that backstop, that investment strength that is part of Spring Park United Church. So for instance, in 2010, we had, between memorials and the endowment account, $66,000 in terms of sort of a capital asset, sort of backstop to sort of provide flexibility financially. In 2025, we have a number of accounts. They are included in the report, and there's some discussion on them in the report from the trustees. But including memorials, it's approximately $860,000. So there is financial flexibility there. I don't want to create a story around the size of any number, because this is investment, and a lot of this investment actually leads to that $30,000 a get that we get over the course of the year, which has been sort of crucial, honestly, but it comes in via dividends based on this investment. But this is to say there has been a lot of work done over the last decade to sort of increase our financial strength, and that's a big piece of it. In terms of the challenges that I see, again, there's some volatility because I feel we're around the break-even point, and we may have some challenges in terms of their staffing situation. So we need to sort of, just make sure that we understand the implications of any new staff or any changes to staffing requirements. We need to keep up with the slow decline, the slow decline of donations, which has been the bread and butter for so long, but really is not anymore. But that is still a piece, that steady decline in donations, compounded by inflationary costs. We need to carefully plan when we have repairs. So there are ways probably to make our repairs happen, but the stewards are working very hard on that. And we need to not lose in all of this talk of operations versus capital versus, you know, the building repairs and all this. We need to not lose our way in terms of not being flexible for the work and missions of the church. So with that, I close my comments, but if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to respond. Lynn. Oh, sure. I just want to dig it out. So this is available. It was in the financial handout, and I think it's the back sheet. Okay. Sure.
My favorite author is going to sign me a copy of this book later on. I'm just wondering, the rentals for this year are showing $144,000, and our budget is projected to be $8,000 less. I'm just wondering if that has anything to do with the daycare taking on the janitorial duties. Like,
Yes.
is that what that difference is? Thank you. Check. Next one is worship expenses. Our proposed budget is up $17,000 from last year. I'm just wondering what that would be for.
Sure. Thank you, Lynn. So there are a couple item lines in here that honestly come with a serious question mark, but I didn't want to just leave a blank because then I think the bottom line would be miscommunicated. So with worship, my understanding is Reverend Darren is looking at taking some time off as a sabbatical, and to replace Darren for a period of 3 months will come with a pulpit supply and staffing cost. And it was a loose estimate, but we basically took a calculation of a quarter of the minister's pay and added that to the budget because we would be responsible for replacing Darren sort of on site and with everything that he does for the congregation. So that's sort of a costing element, but we don't 100% know what that costing could be, but we had to grab something, and I didn't want to not express it in the budgeting process. So I think that if you expanded that item line, I think it's something like 18,000. Okay.
Thank you. And my third question is on the proposed budget. The property expenses have gone down $3,000 from 2025, and I know you referenced in a lot of your other projections of 2% every year, and so I was just wondering, do you know something about the government decreasing our property taxes that we don't?
So the property expenses, if you were to expand that category, I'll say there's probably maybe 10, 12, 13 different accounts that we're tracking under there. I think the one that is probably going to move the greatest is going to be the garbage, because garbage and some cleaning supplies, they were always something that were fairly high expense, but it included a lot of work for our tenants. So I know that the daycare generated an awful lot of garbage. So with the renegotiation of the lease recently, they have taken over the garbage expense. And I want to say that was $4,000, $5,000 per year. So, and that piece could increase this year, but that's not going to increase for us. So we as a church now have bins. So we just use bins, and we are part of regular garbage collection. So I think our expenses are something like $250, $300 per year. Plus if we have a big event and we have to do a load ourselves or something. But the daycare was, they were filling the bins at a cost of around $5,000 per year. So that has sort of reduced significantly. So I would see that that's probably the main item in there that would see a decrease.
Thank you for answering those, and I just realized I had one more. I was just wondering what the amount for the memorial Christmas lights was that we raised. I know on the memorial donations it was $2,515, but it doesn't say the Christmas lights. Thank you.
Stand by. Do you have a number, Helena? Oh, is it? Good. Is it on page 49? Save me looking things up. Oh, I don't have my full report here. I'm going to say 1,700 rings a bell. One second here. No, shoot, I don't have it right here. I should play the Jeopardy music. I'm going to say 1,700, Lynn. That's just going from memory, and that would be grouped under part of special offerings, I want to say. But 1,700 rings a bell, because you're talking about the light campaign, correct? Yeah. Yeah. So I'll go with that. I'll reserve the right to be wrong, and I can follow up with you separately. Right. Correct. Yeah. Yeah. Anything else? Okay. Yes. Okay. So, with no other comments, I guess I'd like to make a motion that the financial statements that were included, with the note that they're not yet sort of officially reviewed finally with our accounting team, and that information will be forthcoming, but I would like to move for the acceptance of the financial statements, including the 2026 budget. Okay. Okay. Move by me and, yeah, okay. All right. Thank you, everyone.
I don't think we're quite done with you, Randy. So, any questions before we call for the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded? Motion carried. Thank you. And so just a reminder, as Randy outlined, there were practical reasons to bring a financial update versus statements that have been reviewed by an accountant, and I know the Finance Committee has had some discussions about the best way to do this, and this seemed like a good compromise, given that the congregation was really interested in having the annual meeting as early as possible in the new year. And so then there is also the budget for 2026, and I think that was, so that's included in the statements. And would you like to move approval of the budget? So moved by Randy, seconded by, to give everyone a chance, seconded by Derek. Good. Any questions, any more other questions about the budget? Wayne? Oh, yeah.
Now, Now, just a little clarification on the budget. With the payroll, there's a part-time position which is unfilled at the moment, but at some point it's probably going to be filled, and I guess how does that factor into, you know, the payroll?
It's this close. This close. Okay. No, thank you for the question. And there is a little note to this because this was another category I didn't want. You know, there's a couple things, as I said, that going into 2026, there are question marks on, and I didn't want to put nothing, and I didn't want to put sort of the maximum that I possibly could. And one of them is what's going to happen with staffing. So without sort of the clarity of when we might have a new staff member, I didn't want to leave sort of the item line that always ever was Nathan's salary. I didn't want to leave that as zero. And as a little note here, for forecasting purchases, payroll budgeting includes wages of a new ministry staff member for 4 months. So I sort of assumed a Nathan's position starting in September. So I think that arrives at like $8,000 or something to that effect. So that's included in the payroll expenses on the proposed budget. Okay.
Great, thank you. Now I've forgotten where we're at. We're at the question? Yes? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded? Motion carried. Thank you, Randy. And we're not quite done with you. Would you say a word or two about appointment of an auditor? Do you want to address that? Very interesting question.
Thank you for helping me get my steps. So last year, sort of my first year doing the year end again in this role, I did find that two things. I found that it was a very expensive process for the church, and I found it was a very time-consuming process for me. Part of the time-consuming element certainly was me catching up with the books and then realizing how our books have changed and how there are all these moving parts with investments and that manner of thing. So we do rely heavily on our accountant's expertise at the end of the year. But last year, our provider was Grant Thornton, and at the end of the procedure, which finally concluded in mid-June, we spent $9,900, which I just felt was exorbitant. And it wasn't a full audit. It was a full financial review. So this is sort of a tear down from a full audit. And it really is what probably a congregation of our size, especially with these changing models in our bookkeeping and finances, it's probably what we should engage in. But we decided to switch providers. And so now Rachel Mella is our accountant, and her office is going through our books right now. And we have a quote of, I think it was around $5,200, something like that. So it's significant savings. And I did, just in my experience so far, the last couple months, just interacting with her office, it's been very positive and sort of clean and slick in terms of communication. Because I did feel a little bit that our file last year with Grant Thornton was sort of kicked to the back of the, okay, get to the back of the line, we'll get to you. So it just felt a long process for it to finally conclude in June. So yeah, I sort of initiated and got the stewards and the board online with me to sort of look into other options. So we're using Rachel Mella this year and her team.
So that was brought to the board, and the board approved moving forward with not doing a full audit. And so this will kind of circle back to the congregation. Does anyone have any questions or concerns about that? Yeah, the board was frankly appalled at the bill that we got last year from Grant Thornton, and this is a good change. I'm going to call on Joyce now for Mission Service. Sorry. So we're not appointing an auditor. We're not doing the audit. So are you going to move that, David? Oh, okay. Thank you. All right. So we've engaged Rachel Mella, and she's already doing that. Yeah. So any other questions about that? If not, all those in favor? Aye. Contrary minded? Okay. All right. Okay, Joyce, take it away.
So just so you know, Randy, you're not alone. My week's not going to be very exciting either. So for 2025, our mission and service goal was $25,500, and the congregation contributed, along with the soup luncheon, $23,195. The stewardship committee, after some discussion, set a goal for 2026 of 25,000, so it's slightly less for this year. That was approved by the official board. Therefore, I move that the mission and service goal for 2026 be $25,000. Seconders? Okay. Any questions? Christina as well. We have one. Okay. Any questions?
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded? Motion carried. Thanks, Joyce. I know we've had a lot of discussion about this in the past, and this is aspirational, our M&S goal. And my understanding is that for congregations of our size, we've done really well with M&S. And thanks, Joyce, for all the work that you've done. So Joyce is saying our percentage of contributors is much higher than the national average. Great, thank you. I'm going to move now to the nominations. And I just want to start by just saying that we do have a lot of holes. Tracy's going to present the nominating report, and we still do have holes on our slate of officers. And in conversations with people, we have a lot of enthusiasm and interest in short-term projects, but a lot of people don't want to be on a committee, and there are two reasons. One is that committee meetings are sometimes tedious, and a lot of us have other things happening in our lives, particularly things that might take us away for weeks or months at a time, and are reluctant to commit. And that is totally understandable. What I'd like to say, though, is that is true for many of us. And if people find themselves in that situation, they're not outliers. And I'd just like to encourage people to consider putting their name forward, even if they are in that situation. Committees work really well when we go into the work with the idea that we're supporting each other. And standing up to serve on a committee is not just a kind of a corporate gift, something that we give to the church. It's in service to each other as well. And I'd really like you to consider ways, whether or not there is you can find a way to support the people who have already stepped forward to serve. There is room for everyone. And if you have questions about where you might serve best, Reverend Darren can absolutely walk you through what might be involved in the work of any particular committee. And of course, the chairs of the committees are happy to help with that as well. And so, Tracy.
Thanks, Kathy. I'm just going to start first with the courtesies to thank folks who are not returning to particular committees for their involvement and participation. So they are listed in the report. Session, Mary Cowper-Smith, Helena Lamb, Nathan Zwicker, Mary Beth McLean. Session Outreach, Maureen Hutchison, Helena Lamb. Ministry and Personnel, myself as chair, although I have committed to Kathy that I will stay on for a period longer till we find a replacement, and Jill Ellis. Session Worship, Nathan Zwicker, Nora Jenkins. Stewards, Heather Rogers, Mark Nickel. Stewards Finance, Heather Rogers, Tracy Cudmore. Nominating Committee, Stephen Dickey, Jill Ellis, Joyce McLeod. Regional Council, Mark Nickel. Trustees, Dan Ward. And Session and Christian Development, Nathan Zwicker. So for those whose time with the various committees has ended or whose role is shifting in some way, as Kathy said, you know, it's a gift to have had you participate, and we appreciate it and thank you. Then in terms of nominating, I'm not going to read the lengthy list that is in the report. If you have any questions about any of the nominations, please let me know. I will highlight that we are looking for another person to sit on Ministry and Personnel, as well as a new chair for that committee. And I can certainly answer any questions for anyone about that. So I will move that the committee membership nominations be as outlined in the written version of the annual report. And I need a seconder for that nomination. Thank you, Derek. Any questions? Bill?
Just a comment that when we're seeking new members, we are equipped so that in all of our committees are online.
Yes.
People don't have to be in the room. So if that helps with people volunteering in their time, we welcome everybody online.
I'll just, in case everyone didn't hear what Bill said, he mentioned the fact that all of the committees are equipped to hold meetings online. So if you are unable to physically be present in the building for a meeting, you are, things are set up in a way that folks can participate virtually. And we do have people who are out of country, down south, or you know, who don't like driving at night or after dark that do that on a regular basis, and it works quite well. Okay, if there's no further questions, all those in favor? Oh, seconder was Derek Cromeyer. I moved it, Derek seconded it, yeah. So one more time. All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion accepted. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Tracy. We have new business on the agenda, but we had not added any. So, Lynn?
So when you were doing the approval for the reports for information, number 6, and reports of the board committee groups, number 7, I wasn't hearing what it was, so I had 3 things I wanted to add in there, so I guess I'll do it now. I just think there's 3 really ministries that have kind of haven't showed up in our reports. And the first one that I'd like to comment on is all the work that Sarah Weeks has done in the summer with our Sunday school room downstairs. If anybody hasn't gone in there, it just uplifts your spirits. It's a beautiful space for our children and young teens to meet. And I hope that that would be included in our work that we did last year. So I don't know where that would fit, but it would fit under some type of committees and groups. My second one that I'd like to acknowledge is the UCW was in charge of looking after our kitchen. Now, I don't know who what group that falls under, if it's the stewards, the trustees, or whatever. But I would like to thank Marion Cutcliffe for all the work that she does in rounding us up, helping out in the kitchen for events that need to be done, and making sure that the kitchen is cleaned and meets the inspection for the health people when they come around. Again, I don't know where that would fit in our report, but I feel strongly that it should be there. And the last thank you I'd like to send out would be to Glenda Frizzle for all the work she does in the shrub garden, which I know for 5 months of the year is at least 4 to 6 hours every week, and the shrubs and the flowers out front, the walkways, the trimmings, and all those things that get done. I feel that these 3 areas are work that goes on behind the scenes, and when it's done, it doesn't get noticed, but if it's not done, it is noticed. So thank you for adding that to our report.
Thanks for that, Lynn. Any other business, David? So that was under. And you know what? I think, so did it fall off the slide? Yeah. Yeah, so it was item G. Okay, sorry. So is there a report from the a separate report? It's sorry, you know what, like I really cannot hear. A report was not submitted? So that was, yeah, yeah. So there was one motion to receive all of those reports. Oh my goodness! Did I miss that whole section? Oh, we flipped by that slide?
All I'm suggesting is that I move the approval of the trustees' report.
So it sounds like you're suggesting that we need to individually, like we need to pull the trustees' report out and approve it separately?
No, it just didn't get dealt with. It's there, it just didn't get dealt with today.
So there was a motion so it was a single motion to receive all of those reports that were listed?
But it's not in that list.
Oh, so it's not on the list? Item G? Yeah. Yeah, and I apologize, I'm not hearing everything. So we just didn't put that slide up. So the second, so was it? Yeah, I wasn't watching. I wasn't watching the slides. It was split up into two. There were so many items; they were on multiple slides. Is that okay? So we've got that motion covering it. Okay, good. Is there anything else that we missed, or if not, does anyone? Yeah. Yes. Sorry, really, I can't hear what people are saying. Yeah, so Donnie, you've got something to say? Yeah.
I'd just like to say thank you to Kathy for chairing the meeting. You did a wonderful job. And I'd also like to say thank you to Reverend Darren and to Evelina. The things you do for us around here, and when you look at the reports at the end of the year, happy people do good things. So our budget just didn't come to be the way it is, and things don't happen around here the way they are because people aren't happy. So Darren and Alina, everything you do for us every day and everything is very much appreciated. So thank you very much.
Thanks for that. Okay, is anybody else's blood sugar low? We can I have a motion for adjournment? Yeah, Bill, seconded by all. Okay, thank you. Thanks for staying. See you next year.